I would think you could hang those other beams off that if you wanted everything to be flush, but just have that one be totally solid.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about having that Lally column in the middle, because it just seems like the rest of that is kind of held up by magic right now.
It's magic.
Oh, yeah.
It's magic.
This is rough. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is Justin Fink and Matt Milham and Patrick McComb. This is the Fine Home Building Podcast. It's our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of what, Patrick?
Working on houses.
That is correct. You can get in touch with us at fhbpodcast@taunton.com. You can check out our glorious website at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. And that's where you're going to see the lovely show notes and all the links to the things that we talk about on this episode of the show. And it's been a while since I, give everybody a reminder to go onto iTunes and give us a little rating and review, because that helps our standing and helps us be found by other people who might enjoy this podcast. And you guys can also help spread the word. That's enough of all of that stuff, right?
Sure.
What's happening with you guys?
I'm rebuilding my basement bulkhead door, which is made of wood.
That seems wildly inefficient and impractical for a guy like you. That's something I would do.
So what Maureen said to me, and she's like, that sounds like a 2-page article. And what I had to say to her is, I wouldn't tell anyone to do what I'm doing.
Yeah. We actually did. And here we go. The first thing that we'll put up on the show notes page, we did an article on something like a better looking bulkhead door, and it was made out of wood, and it was from a guy who lives in Jamestown, Rhode Island. So he was kind of like that boat builder aesthetic.
Right. That's the kind of person you need to do this, not me.
All right. So how did you figure this out?
Well, so I used largely what was there and just restored what I could and replaced the boards that needed to be because of rot.
Was it like a tongue and groove kind of a thing?
Yeah, tongue and groove boards, board and batten that make up the two doors. And then there's like what amounts to a picture frame on top of a sloping wall. Much of it is masonry, but the very top part is made of 2x6 framing and OSB sheathing covered with vinyl siding.
Wait, hold on a second.
The cheek walls, if you will.
The sides of it are vinyl siding?
Yeah.
Really?
They're vertical,
So that part's not concrete either?
Below it is. So there's these little triangular sections of vinyl covered wall over masonry.
So I got to ask, why not just put a Bilko door on there?
It's not the right size.
Didn't you just come back from Bilko factory tour too? You could have gotten one.
Unfortunately, and
do you have a plasma cutter? You can change the size.
Bilko doors are a great solution if you have the right size opening. So in order to make a Bilko door fit from their catalog, I would have to make an extension at the top, which would lower the headroom. So I don't want to do that. So I had to stick with what I got.
What do you think the reason was that the builder... When was your house built?
My house was originally built in the 30s and then rehabbed in 2010.
Okay, so in the 30s, it's not inconceivable that they would have just assumed you're going to have...
A wood door,
so they wouldn't think to make it a standard size.
Yeah, and the masonry dates from that period. It's been repointed and painted, but it's probably original to the house.
I have zero basement access from the outside right now.
I would not want to give that up.
I said the same thing, and I really hemmed and hawed about it. And then if you guys remember, it was over a year ago now that I put the back porch on my house, and I built in
a trap door,
a big trap door that I could lift up to get access to the bulkhead door that I was covering.
Yep.
And I really was like, I don't know. This could be a huge mistake. It's going to be great to have a porch, but I have not once removed that thing to go in the basement. And part of it is just don't put as much stuff in the basement, which is also helpful.
Right.
Certainly there are things that I will need to use it for.
What about your furnace?
The water heater. Actually, water heater could probably go up the stairs. Listen, you just leave the old furnace down there. They're just getting smaller and smaller.
Sure.
Pretty soon they're just going to carry it in on their shoulder.
So the other factor in my situation is it is the only basement access. There is no access from the interior. So
you should put in a fireman's pole.
Sometimes the wife and I have these conversations in the kitchen when we're making dinner about what are the cool things we would do in our house. And one of the discussions was to build an island that the top slides open and you have stairway into the basement.
Cool.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Is your laundry down there, or is it on the...
No, it's in the kitchen space, in a closet.
You can just jump in here, Matt. Try and get it worded in edgewise,
Well, I have no exterior basement access in my house either. And
Really?
None. Yeah. And when I first got the house, I thought, I really want to like just cut a hole in the wall and put stairs down there.
That's a fun job.
Yeah. And then as soon as I started looking at the wall, there are like vertical I-beams that I think are part of some sort of a structural remediation project.
That's a good job, though.
Yeah.
Like they did it right.
Yeah. And it just kind of like nixed that entire idea. I don't think I could cut any part of that wall without, risking the structure or
It's
bringing
just-
in an engineer to figure out exactly how to do that.
So
And I
why
don't know.
not just a different wall?
Well, the back of the house seems like it would be a good spot for it, but there's a swale that's about maybe 2 to 3 feet from the house because there is a lot of water. There's a big hill behind my house, and it just comes down. It's like it used to be a farm field, so it's just big and open. There's no trees. It doesn't. So this water just kind of like cascades down this hill into this swale and gets kind of shunted off into my woods, which are semi-swamp.
It doesn't come in your basement, though.
It doesn't come in the basement. They did a good job directing all the water away, but it kind of makes it problematic for where I'm going to put this door because essentially now I can only put it at one end of the house. Part of that is the closet where the boiler is. And the sump is over
So
there.
that
So
means
there's
moving
really
mechanicals.
yeah, and then another part has a pellet stove, so I could kind of squeeze it between the pellet stove and the boiler, and that's where I think like 2 of these I-beams are.
So you guys are a fresh crowd for this discussion. On the show before, we've talked, with Brian and Rob, we've talked about slabs versus basements versus crawl spaces and preferences in that discussion. So you're building a house tomorrow. What do you use?
Where's it at?
We'll see. Let's keep it here for now.
So in a heating climate,
Yes.
I'd want a basement.
Why?
To put the ductwork and the conditioned envelope and the heating plant in some place that it's not in the living space making a bunch of noise.
Mr. Matthew?
Slab on grade.
Why?
Why? I don't want to deal with any of the moisture. I don't want to have to walk up and down stairs. Basements, as nice as they can be, still aren't as nice as a regular above-ground conditioned space. I'd rather have a workshop in an above-ground space somewhere else. And a lot of those mechanicals are so quiet now where you can put them outside that it doesn't matter.
Would you still do frost walls? Because then, the argument always goes to if you're digging for frost walls.
Why not keep going?
Yeah.
Right. No, I was thinking frost-protected shallow foundation.
Another
like
article
that
we can
idea.
put up.
Yeah.
Where do you put the heating plant? I mean, the ductwork or whatever.
I'm thinking either a water heater or on demand and in-floor radiant.
Oh.
So it'd be nice and quiet.
Do you want to quickly describe for people who don't know what a frost-protected shallow foundation is? Because
Yeah.
it's in the code, but I feel like almost nobody uses it.
Yeah, so you have these little, basically like a haunch around the edge of the slab, and then you frost protect it by putting rigid foam around the perimeter, kind of slope down into the ground. It has to extend out like maybe 2 feet or so.
You don't even have to do that in all climates, right?
Right.
Some of them just require vertical insulation on these thickened slab edges.
Yeah. And essentially it just, if you are kind of putting that insulation kind of sticking out away from it, it sort of protects the soil directly around the slab from freezing. And so there's nothing to actually heave it up. So that's
Right.
the frost protection.
So in a traditional foundation, you'd have to go down to your frost depth so that there's no chance ground could freeze underneath the lowest point of your foundation. In this case, they just keep the ground warm so that it can't freeze under there.
Yep.
And it's an interesting shape foundation. It looks sort of like a monolithic pour where you have their footings and the slab in the same pour, but it's kind of got an angled, like footings and things that are inside of the, like if you have a load-bearing wall or something inside and you need footing for it, they're kind of slope-sided.
Yeah.
Like everything looks kind of angular so as not to have hard edges. I'm guessing that's what that's for. It also spreads the loads better if you have a 45-degree angle rather than a...
And I think it's the keeping the ground warm so it doesn't freeze.
Yeah, they're cool. They're really cool.
The downside is you need a relatively flat lot, right? And so depending on where you build, you can't do that everywhere.
Yeah.
I think they're great too, but
Yeah.
I'd like a basement. I like for storage and ductwork and pipes and.
Jeff, what would you do?
I mean, I've lived my life with basements, and it's hard for me to think about it without a basement, Because
Is yours a walkout right now?
yeah,
Yeah. See, I grew up with a walkout basement too, and that was nice because you could just come up the driveway and put your bike right in the basement, and then go upstairs or or use it as like a mudroom kind of
Yeah.
a thing. But I mean, what I have now, where you can only go to it from upstairs, it's just a hole for collecting junk.
What do you keep in there?
Junk. Yeah. And my washer and dryer and all the
So your laundry's
HVAC
down
and-
there. Like, where
Yeah.
would you put that in your house if you didn't have a basement?
where it would be convenient, like in a closet.
On the main living floor?
It's a lot easier if you're designing from
Yeah,
day one. You
totally.
just make room for it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask Matt if he misses having outdoor access. Like, has there been an instance where you said, geez, I really need that door to the outside?
Have you put lumber in through a basement window yet?
No, but I've got
pretty handy.
I mean, I've got no tools down there. You know, I couldn't
Yeah.
get if I had a nice big cabinet saw, I could not get it into that basement. So there's no chance of me probably putting a workshop in there unless I get that outdoor access. Do I miss it? No. I mean, everything's in the garage right now, and the basement, like yours, is basically just a gigantic
Dumping
junk
ground.
closet.
A
Yeah.
damp one.
Yeah, and would I be happy getting rid of everything in there? Probably. I mean, the only thing I'd miss is my camping equipment. Everything
put it
else
somewhere
can
else.
go. Yeah. I mean, a lot of this stuff was in storage for a couple of years anyway, and I forgot I owned most of it. And like, I still open boxes. And I'm like, oh, look at that thing from high school. Don't need that. But I
Yeah.
still haven't thrown it out.
Yeah, it's just momentum that keeps these things, right?
Yeah.
But that said, there are ways to make basements super functional and keep them super conditioned and dry.
I'm thinking now, like, what would I do with my oil tank? As an example, like, that has to be inside. You don't want it in the living room.
Would you use it as a? Would you still go oil if you were building new?
No, not a chance.
Yeah.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Man, oil.
It's if people like are out there listening, like, what oil? What?
Yeah, it's such a weird pocket that we're in, where oil is everywhere, and the rest of the country it's nowhere. But
So it's for those who don't know, it's basically diesel fuel, right? That you burn in your furnace or boiler.
yeah, everybody's got big black tanks in their basement.
And these trucks make the rounds, filling up people's tanks. It's a wacky system, right?
So
Mine's right
stupid.
next to my dryer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you
Mine's
end
next
up
to
with
an open flame.
hundreds of gallons of like hazardous material in a tank in your basement, right?
Inside your conditioned living space. Yeah. I have natural gas, thank the Lord, but I feel for you guys. Anyway, so that's enough of a detour. Let's answer some questions because we got some cool stuff here. This one's kind of a follow-up. You guys might not remember, but a while back we had a question from a guy named Vincent about this weird and wacky 2-story round porch. Were you on that show,
I was
Matt?
on there, yeah.
So is Vincent the homeowner or is he a contractor?
I think he's either the contractor or the designer. I don't remember. Jeff, do you remember from the first question?
I think he's an architect.
I get the sense that he's charged with figuring this out from a design point of view,
God bless him.
which means he'll probably put a lot of effort into figuring out how to build it, and the contractor will say,
can't do
I
it."
didn't look at the plans. I'm doing whatever I want.
Can't do it that
or
way."
this is impossible. So Vincent writes, just following up on the project I had where there were the 2-story wood stave columns that I needed to resecure an existing intermittent second floor exterior deck level 2. So this thing is basically picture a big round deck, and it's two stories high, right? We have the old pictures up here, Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's being held up. That second floor is being held up by hollow wooden columns that are failing and falling apart. So we tackled that the last time around. So here's the next issue with the project. How to reframe the curved edges of the deck of the existing Rotunda gazebo. If you guys have not gone to our website to check out photos of a project, you need to go to check out the photos of this framing. It is truly something that I would have done.
Before you came in the room, Matt and I were talking about this project, and I think that Vincent has probably one of the most difficult framing building projects going on for 2 reasons. One, because it's round, which makes everything way more difficult, and B, because he doesn't have solid foundation walls underneath this round section of the porch. They're on piers. So that means that the curved sections are now headers, right? They're taking the load.
It's a rim beam.
Yeah.
All right, so so the existing curved edge of the decking is comprised of layer upon layer of what appears to be wood scraps to generate the radius.
Looks like garbage.
Yeah, it's all different thicknesses and sizes. The problem is that these wood scraps are also what the structural columns rest on, and now everything is slowly sliding off the deck. I don't see a problem with that. I'm attaching my engineered solution. So we have a drawing from Vincent, which is basically a ladder. Picture like a ladder on the flat with a curved edge, and And the main beams will be resting on the existing. This throws me off. You guys got to help me here. The main beams will be resting on the existing peanut stone columns.
So the
What is peanut stone?
I have no idea.
It's that round. I think it's just those round stones.
But it's
that
not even
shouldn't
round
naturally
stones.
Stack. Yeah, it's not.
I'm
Is it
sure
a
he
typo, you
means,
think?
means the
Maybe.
masonry columns, right?
They're masonry
Yeah.
columns. Okay. Anyway, so the main beams will be resting on these peanuts with the ladder edges attached to either side to recreate the radius. The temporary lolly column shown in the picture will be removed once all the new structure is in place. I wanted to get your take as builders if I am overthinking things. So you guys have a copy of this kind of the plan that he has.
I want to know what was holding up the floor before he put the lolly column there, because all those joists converge into thin air.
So let's talk about how this thing is framed. It's essentially, if you looked at it from a bird's eye view, from a plan view, it's got what is it? 6 main beams, and they look like you took a pizza and sliced it into different pieces.
Yeah, they're pie-shaped.
They're pie-shaped beams that radiate out from a center point, which he now has the center point supported on a temporary screw post, like an adjustable lolly column, which is apparently just sitting on gravel. I don't know, Patrick. It sure looks like, based on the placement of the table that's also in that photo, that there
was nothing there.
They were just hanging out and having cocktails under this thing.
It's crazy.
And they must. I'm guessing they used this thing to jack it up and get it flat again because it was sagging in the center. So my question with this thing is: do you think that they originally framed this thing in a way that you would have done it?
No.
Because I would have just come off of the house with straight joists and then made a curved rim.
That's what my solution is too.
It's still that solution to
Yeah.
me. If I mean, assuming that he can get to the point of rebuilding the framing, which I don't know why you would, unless even with budget being a concern, why would you spend all of that time and effort
To making curved structural elements when you really only need straight structural elements and then a curved fascia.
Right. So what you would do is you would have, this is on the corner of a house, which, typically is where these kind of rotunda porch things would live. So you could have see, Jeff, this is another case where I need my John Madden pencil. I could just draw right on this thing. You want to have your joist, for me, it would be a ledger on the corner of the house, joist coming off of it to form the bulk of this
Shape.
yeah. And then from there, you can kerf the backside of 2x whatever you want to do for the rim.
I
and-
see
and
everyone
bend it
using
around.
PVC for that because even, on a radius like this, it's big enough. I think you could leave it out in the sun and it'll actually be
Well,
flexible.
I meant for the structural part.
Oh, gotcha.
I
might leave, cut a little lookouts, of progressively longer lengths to get to the center of a segment and then shorten them, right, with straight beams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but can you get away with that without having a rim on the outside of this circle? Like structurally, don't you have to have?
I think the secret to eliminating that need would be to have the beams clear span and go under the posts.
This is
Yes.
Does that make sense?
You mean not a flush beam? You want it to be a beam, and then just joists running over
Yes.
it. Using the existing peanut stone, or
Yeah, I think so.
how are you gonna do that? Where are the piers again? There's 3 of them.
looks like.
There's one under.
Are there 5?
I think there are 3. 4. 1, 2, 3. I think there's 3.
We lost Patrick.
I was doing counting.
The thing, I'm not 100% sure you can do a ledger here because it looks like the edge of the house that it hits is just like a tiny corner, maybe like 2 feet on one side and 2 feet on the other. And then if I'm reading this right, the rest of that is porch that it's coming up to. The porch that extends off either
So
side
this
of
is
it.
not. I see what you're saying. So this rotunda is really only contacting the structure of the house
On
at
one
one
corner.
very
In
tiny
one
little
small
point.
corner. Yeah.
So I
he
think I
kinda
would try and
needs
run.
to have that hexagonal framing.
Well, so you
And
could have one giant beam running out from the house
Yeah.
to
Yes.
that one, like a 45-degree angle off the corner of the house,
Yeah,
running
that-
out to a post, the masonry post, and then you could build off of that to either side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hang. I would think you could hang those other beams off that if you wanted everything to be flush, but just have that one be totally solid.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about having that Lally column in the middle because it just seems like the rest of that is kind of held up by magic right now.
It's magic.
Oh yeah, this
It's
is
magic.
This is rough.
The other thing I thought about, and steel fabricators will make curved, for lack of a better word, like square tubing, right? That could stand in for the structural elements in this round shape, and then you could hang off of that for the joists.
What are you talking about? Like a steel beam?
A steel fabricator, yeah, will make a radius tube,
Oh, okay.
a square tube. And I think that'd be something I would explore. It's probably going to be prohibitively expensive. You can also get glue lambs that are made up in curved elements like that, and then you could hang conventional joists off of that.
If you wanted to go that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, glue lamb would be, if you had just a giant segmented curved glue lamb pieces.
And the way I've known guys to do
That'd
that,
be cheap.
the way I've known guys to do that in the field when they're dealing with a real budget is to laminate their own from half-inch pressure-treated plywood.
Yep.
I kind of gives me the willies to think about gluing pressure-treated plywood and having it.
I mean, if you're using PL, which is my favorite, and you're fastening all the layers together with screws, it's going to act as one once it cures up. I mean, you got to get somebody to sign off on it. Because of the fact that you're trying to support these columns,
That's the
it just doesn't make any sense to be relying on blocking on the outside to form this curve. You want your structure to be started and finished before you get to the curve, as far as I'm concerned. And that means a beam underneath each one of those columns radiating off this one
Mega
main
beam.
beam coming off the house.
Yeah.
That's
think
how
I'm
I
with
would
you.
see it done. I understand that Vincent's probably listening to this and going,
Oh my God.
so you want me to tear this down and start over?
Well, but Matt and I think you could hold up the roof
Yeah,
to
you can
demo the floor system.
Temporarily support the roof.
How would you
take
do
the
that?
columns out. Yeah.
2x10s on an angle.
Yeah.
That's the go-to
Around
way,
that
right?
thing, take those posts out, rip that entire floor out, reframe it, extend those beams out to
The actual
Yeah.
perimeter.
yeah to the actual perimeter where they're going to actually sit underneath those posts.
Yep.
Frame your floor, redeck it, put the post back in, take your supports out.
It'd be a fun project, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I love structural repairs like that. The problem solving is the best.
Oh, yeah. It's really, I mean, you have the luxury of all sorts of metal connector hardware, really excellent engineered beam products.
Plastic lumber that you can bend for that beautiful fascia at the end, right?
I mean, this thing could look better than it's ever looked before, as opposed to, in 50 years when the next contractor gets to it and goes, what the heck were these people thinking?
Yeah.
Why didn't they just do this?
You're gonna
it seems
invite-
that thered been an interim repair. Like you see the composite decking,
Yeah,
right?
holding
and,
up
and
stuff
it's done
underneath.
so hackified. It's
There's pieces of the
horrible.
decking like screwed onto the stuff
bad.
underneath, under the blocking underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. You guys should check out the pictures for this for sure.
We can't do it justice.
I like your idea about holding up the porch roof because it also addresses the need to maybe get into those columns and figure out what to do to strengthen those too.
It's hard to know if that was ever built correctly, and it needs at least now some serious reconstruction.
Just don't take off the beadboard ceiling because I'm pretty sure you don't want to know how that's framed underneath there. Just it might be better to just pretend you never saw it based on what other stuff we're seeing. Okay.
The house next to it looks really nice too.
It's what a great setting. You can see there's a
Yeah.
marina like across the street or something.
All right.
It's nice. Cool place.
Let's talk about waterproofing a shower. George writes, I'm planning to update my bathroom shower from a bath fitter's retrofit to a curbless tile with a linear drain at the entrance to the shower. Are Schluter systems and Curdy boards simple enough for a handy homeowner to use for such a project? Can I learn enough from their online tutorials to get the job done, or should I ask my tile supplier to get me into one of their installation seminars? So first things first, let's talk about upgrading from a tub to a shower. It's a bath fitter's retrofit. So what you got is essentially, well, we don't know. He says bath fitter's retrofit to curbless tile. So maybe he has a shower stall that's been covered up with the bath fitter's skin.
You mean a tub shower combination?
No,
kind of
I mean
thing?
like a walk-in shower, like a vertical stall of a shower. Because Bath Fitters, I think, does those too.
I think they do.
So
my assumption would be just they stuck a cover over the existing tub, but
right, if it's that, either way, you have to not only get the Bath Fitters thing out, you have to get the old tub out. If it's cast iron, my preference is still earplugs and a sledgehammer.
really,
Yeah, you cut it?
I try and take it out one piece on a moving dolly.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's not that heavy.
A bathtub?
Yeah, as long as you don't have to go downstairs.
My God.
I hate the flying porcelain. Like, oh my god, that just gives me the willies.
Sledgehammer.
Sledgehammer, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Man,
We have a video on our website of how to do it the right way, Justin.
the right way is with a sledgehammer. If it's vinyl or whatever, you can just use a recip saw and
Rip it off there.
you know, an excellent respirator to avoid getting fiberglass in your lungs forever. Cut it into manageable pieces, rip it off, watch your hands and the sharp stuff. And then you'll have access, however you get this thing out, you'll have access to the floor then to handle your plumbing and figure out the waterproofing down there. Keep in mind that you need to figure out a slope here. Now, if you're going to have your linear drain at the entrance to a walk-in barrier-free shower, that means the floor needs to slope. It needs to be built up in the back so that it slopes back towards the entrance to the shower.
It's going to slope toward the rest of the bathroom.
Right, which should be the easiest way to get this job done, as opposed to putting that linear drain at the back of the shower. Then you have to notch down into the floor or have a step.
Yeah.
But then it's not a curbless shower anymore.
I think in any case, they have to waterproof the entire bathroom floor. I think that's something that people overlook when you do a curbless shower, because inevitably the drain is going to stop up and the water is going to spill out into the bathroom.
Well, it's like, even if it doesn't, it would be foolish to not plan for it happening. You know, and that's.
And then you have to deal with the closet flange, right? Because there's you have to some way waterproof around the toilet connection.
Ooh, good point.
So
how would you do that?
It's not easy.
I wonder how if it's a second floor. Ooh. That would suck.
So I like a curb on a shower for that reason.
Yeah. Huh.
Build a moat around the toilet. Caulk it in.
Put it on a curb. You could elevate it on a little curb.
Curb toilets.
You get a macerating toilet.
Those go out you could have a rear discharge. I think that would solve the problem. Like a
wall-hung.
wall-hung toilet. Yeah. Like
Now
you'd
we're talking.
Yeah. I think that's a good solution.
As long as you're spending money, you know.
Why not?
Yeah.
Someone's got to keep this economy going. What's our
You're saving all
George?
this money doing this yourself, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Good luck putting in that wall-hung toilet. So what do we think about Schluter system? Has anybody here used it? I've used it on at least a few jobs. I've never used Curdy board, though. I stopped doing bathroom stuff right around the time that came out.
How about you, Matt? Have you used Schluter?
I've never used any of this stuff. I've never done any tiling in any bathroom anywhere. I'm going to have to. I
Man,
want
you're
to.
lucky.
Yeah. I've got two of the most hideous bathrooms you can imagine.
I saw one of them.
50s. Yeah. Pink tile with a black border.
Woof.
And the tub and the toilet are like blue-gray.
I know
blue.
that color because I know that era.
Oh, it's gross.
I've done Curdy in a shower, and it's not hard at all. If you can get into one of Schluter's classes, I would tell you to definitely do that because they're going to show you the right way. But I did it without a class. I did watch the videos. I did read their materials. Their instruction materials, I say, were very good.
Yeah, they're excellent. And it's it's a pretty intuitive system.
Yeah.
I mean, like you have a bunch of sheets, or in the case of the Curdy board, you have boards with the sheets already applied to them. And really, after you get the thing roughed in, you just are sealing all of the transitions with tape and thin set.
Yeah, and the material's pretty easy to work with, I would say.
It's not my favorite. The problem I have with it, as I had with it as a beginner with the system, was having too much buildup of thin set in the corners.
That is the problem.
Where it can interfere with your tiles being flat and planar. Yeah. Pro tile guys have no problem with this, but I'm not a pro tile guy.
And if you use the Schluter pre-made corners for the Curdy system instead of trying to fold the sheet material, you'll have better success because they're thinner and they're pre-cut, and you don't get this big buildup like you get with what do you call it, a pig's ear, or the folds of the main material, which is thicker, and that makes it build up in the corners bad.
Right. So if you use the regular sheet stuff, you have to do kind of an old-fashioned folding job, right?
Unless you use the corners. They make pre-made corners, and they're not pre-made in the shape of the corner. You fold them to get that shape.
And that old-fashioned folding thing is the same thing you would use back when you used to use the rubber membranes.
Yes,
or
what's
the
PVC.
material I'm talking about? PVC, where you kind of bunch up the excess on the inside corner and fold it over on itself, and then try and hide it, which is not easy.
I've done tile backer too with a trowel applied waterproofing membrane. I like
did
those
that.
systems.
I love it.
What I like about those is you don't get the buildup in the corner. You have a little more flexibility with regard to you can make any shape or whatever you want to. You're not limited in any way to what Schluter sells.
And that's even more intuitive. I mean, you put up your board, you put mesh tape, self-stick mesh tape over the seams, and then you roll it on and paint it, and it's pretty much, when you can't see through it anymore, you're waterproofed.
I think there's a lot to like about that.
And it's not expensive.
No.
That's still my preference. I have never tried a Weedy board, W-E-D-I, although over the years their popularity has just continued to
We
get
should tell
more
people
and
what
more
that
and more.
is.
It's a similar to Schluter.
Is it?
It's a similar concept of like foam-based waterproofing boards.
So they're tile backers, but they're not made of cementatious material. They're styrofoam.
Yeah, there's some kind of a foam.
Yeah.
It's blue. It's blue foam.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to the Curdy board in terms of the way it installs and
But
functions.
the Schluter Curdy installs on regular drywall. Unlike, they're not foam, they don't need to use a foam backer. They can go right on regular drywall.
But he is talking about using Curdy board
Right.
in his question. So
Yeah, and that
I'm
goes
assuming
right on
that
framing.
Yeah. So you can skip the drywall and apply the stuff. You can build cool stuff out of the thicker pieces. You can make structural benches and shower niches and all sorts of things.
Divider walls.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Appeal to that would be like not having to pick up hundreds of pounds of cementatious backer board, right? Because it's super light and
Cut it with a utility knife,
that's
snap
nice.
it. But there's some slight differences with Weedy and Curdy. I would just say check out both of those products. I think they're pretty neck and neck in terms of doing the same job with some slight differences in how they go in. I think Weedy solves some of the problems of buildup in the corners, but it might have some other drawbacks that are worth considering.
What I love about the Curdy is the floor drain that you use with it. It's got this really wide flange, and if you use it with their pre-molded shower pan, this pre-sloped pan, the pan is recessed so the drain gets in there nice and flush. The material goes over top of it, and to me it just seems like a really reliable system. Like if you're making your own shower pan using a clamping drain or whatever, those just seem kind of hokey to me.
Yeah, I mean, are there any cases where you would still do an old-fashioned lined shower pan?
Having not done it.
I don't know why I'm asking Matt.
Yes.
Because
I don't know any better. Yeah.
If it's a weird shape, that's pretty much your only.
Up until right now, Matt didn't know Schluter was it even a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right. Well, we've sufficiently confused George with options. That ought to get us out of that one.
Do the Schluter system, George. You'll love it.
And
And
watch
go to
the
the
videos.
class.
Yeah,
Go to the class.
I'd put the boards up and use roll-on.
Yeah, if you can get the class for free, fine. But the videos are pretty.
They're good.
Pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which fluid applied did you use, Patrick?
Red Guard. Custom building products.
Yes, I believe that's the name of it. I used that once for an inlay right when you come in a door over plywood.
People who are pros out there are going to be losing their mind because that's the one you buy at the home center. Some of the others are at tile distributors only.
I think at Lowe's you can get the Mapai products, which is, I think, what I used. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, custom building products, Red Guard. And it's just like real thick paint.
Yes, exactly. All right. Oh, I don't have a name on this question. There's always got to be one per episode where I don't forget to put the name down. We're talking about widening a stoop. I'm looking to get a portico installed over my front entry. The stoop is 6 foot wide by 4 foot deep. I don't plan on using it as a porch since we have a nice big back deck, but I have a feeling that it may not be wide enough, causing the portico to possibly look too small for the house. The portico posts may also be sitting directly in front of the side lights as well. I'm thinking that the stoop may need to be widened by 2 feet, 1 foot on each side. The stoop is of the Holly precast type, and it's sitting on a footer that is tied into the house footer. Also, there are granite treads lying on 2 of the steps in addition to 2 additional poured concrete steps. Removing the old stoop would require a complete rework of the steps. What options are there for widening it without removing and replacing the stoop entirely? So we got a stoop that essentially matches the width of a front door with a side light on either side, and now we want to put a roof over it, which is cool. But the columns would not land on the. I mean, if they landed on the stoop, I agree, it would look ridiculous. It's just too narrow.
He's got to build masonry walls or wood planters on the sides of the steps and then put the columns on that, right?
I think the masonry columns approach and just put them right next to it and use similar stone to what you have.
I think that could be a cool design.
And it
feature.
doesn't have to be the whole stoop being widened. It can just be those posts on either side, like you'd see at the end of a driveway or something, or at the end of a wall.
And if you make those, what we call them, like pony walls or stem walls, a little taller than the stoop, it'll look like it was meant to be.
Also would protect your post bases from rotting.
I think he should lose the lollipop shrubs anyway.
Yeah. Gonna lose that nice broken pediment though. Sweet.
Yeah.
You could repeat that on the front of the portico though.
Yeah, you could go high enough. Well, he's got a window above it, but this is almost too easy.
Yeah.
I suppose if you really didn't care about the steps, you could also, and you did want some space up front, you could go the route of building a wood porch or synthetic decking porch over it. Just cover the whole thing up, new steps, new landing.
You could maybe even leave the granite steps and just do the top one as a little mini deck up there.
But I think it would be horsey. So what would you do for would you have to tie these new masonry columns to the existing precast stoop, and how would you do that? I guess you could just drill holes in it and just put some epoxy and rod in there.
You mean to the sides of the
just
to
so
keep
that
it from didn't fall over?
So they act as a unit too,
It's definitely got to go. The footing for these new masonry columns that are going to support the wood columns are going to have to go to frost line, right? Because we can't have that heaving in the wintertime if he's in a cold climate.
Right. So you're going to be doing some serious excavating.
It's going to look like $1 million though. It's going to have to relocate the coach lights because they're going to be behind the columns now, right?
What's up with the rise on those steps? That last...
Are you confused by why he has granite and concrete steps?
Yeah, I was confused by that, and I was confused why that last step is so short, if I'm seeing it correctly.
I think you are.
Yeah. I mean, so I was
thinking... Let me
thinking...
expand the size of my photo. Please hold.
Yeah. Might it be possible just to take that whole top step out, make it thicker,
and wider,
cantilever it out, and a foot on either side, somehow tie it to the base, and then put the columns on that instead.
I don't even understand what is happening. Like what?
I don't know.
So the top step is poured concrete, and the rest are probably what come from the stone yard is standard 5 foot or 6 foot width treads.
Yeah.
Oh, so he just threw granite on top of the precast steps. And that's why, so it's throwing off.
It's kind of what it looks like to me.
So, but he didn't throw granite on the top, which is why it's now uneven at the top.
Yeah, get a gigantic piece of granite
across the top.
Across the top, cantilevers out a little bit. Put those.
Well, a granite slab cantilever. Is there a design standard for that?
I don't know.
You can go about 2 feet on a countertop, right? Look at this. This has the same thing as every precast stoop. You can see in the photo, it's leaning to one side. Mm-hmm. They never...
It sheds water that way.
Yeah, they never stay the way that you think they're going to stay. And if they tip back towards the house, you're particularly screwed. We love when that question comes in because it's like, how do you fix this? It's like,
I've got a family of skunks living back there.
Yeah. It's like, you fix it with a lot of money. That's how you fix it. I was thinking about giant slabs. It's funny you said thinking about giant slabs for a bathroom. And this was just like a complete random car thought. Like, how come nobody does slabs for a floor, even in like a small room, like a very small powder room bathroom.
How big?
I mean, if we're already carrying giant slabs into a house, but so even if you said, let's say I'm going to cut 4 foot by 4 foot pieces of granite and drop them in and just have a few seam lines, like, why does nobody do that?
I don't.
Is it a weight thing? You
I
think?
don't know. I think you could easily, but it's not easy to move.
Well, but I'm saying that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we move countertops.
we're already doing it
Yeah.
in another room. It's
Yeah.
not like we're trying to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah.
Maybe someone
We're
out there's
carrying a
done
lot of
that.
heavy things. We already carried the tub up there,
Right.
and we have granite in the bathroom, usually in either the shower or not necessarily the shower, but on the countertop for the vanity. We seem to have no shortage of money.
Right.
That doesn't seem to be a problem. So, I mean, how come nobody's going, I want a piece of granite custom cut for my shaped bathroom, and I want it brought up here and dropped in place.
For the floor?
I don't want to see any seams. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably just the cost.
Come on.
It's so cost prohibitive. And how do you
Granite's-
fit that in? You got to probably build those walls
saying,
around it.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
so
granite, but
yeah.
I mean countertop material.
I mean, but it's countertops are not that expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think.
You can get it thinner.
Well, they are
a
for
floor,
granite.
Probably.
Is what $100 a square foot?
I don't think it's even that much.
So, I
probably
mean-
for the
50 some,
average, but yeah.
It's not.
That's a lot. What are you talking about?
That's a lot.
$100 a square foot?
It's totally. It's
Jesus.
totally out of my budget.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Sorry.
Patrick and I were just looking at concrete tiles for an upcoming article, and they look awesome. We're on GranadaTile.com.
Yes.
And you can get them in. I think they were 8x8s, and you can get these wild, awesome patterns, and you can also get these just nice, sort of
Subtle, mellow color.
It's like a low luster, earthy color options, like greens and reds and yellows and blues, and they're really nice.
I agree.
Like, and you could really. I immediately sent it to my wife, like, we got to look at these. I don't. She's like, well, what do you want to do with them? I don't know.
Something.
Like, we got to.
Something.
We got to redesign something so we can include these.
Are these lightweight concrete or are they
No,
just right? Yeah.
they're just concrete tiles.
They're probably what 3/4 or ½ inch thick.
I don't know. You think it says it on there? The ones that I've seen are maybe 5/8, ½ inch 5/8. But I've never worked with them before, and so it makes me curious. I mean, I guess you could cut them with a regular tile saw. The other question Patrick and I had was, well, yeah, but are they in stock, or is this a special order deal? And it's like, no, they're in stock. So, I don't want to get lost down the frequently asked questions page while everybody's just sitting here listening to me breathe.
We're supposed to get some samples of those tomorrow.
Yeah. Anyway,
and do you have
looks
to seal those or?
I
they call
presume
it up to
you-
12
yeah.
by 12.
I presume you do.
Yeah, you'd have to seal them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stuff was thick mortar bed.
So
Yeah, you have to seal them and buff them.
So they say you have to set them in a mortar bed, or you can use thin set, because having to go in a mud job would be a downside.
No, I think they just meant like thick set mortar as opposed to thin set mortar. So just buying a mortar that's made for large format tiles, I think, is essentially what they're saying. But if the subfloor is uneven, a thicker mortar bed might be specified. We gotta do this. I want to try this. All right. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. See you guys all next week for more questions, more fun. Visit finehomebuilding.com/podcast, fhbpodcast@taunton.com for some more questions. We want to hear what you guys are working on, and we want to help solve some problems or just generally weigh in and confuse things. So until next week, this is Justin for Patrick and Matt saying keep craft alive and happy building.